Hey everyone, Reflected here. In my upcoming Speed and Angels campaign, you're gonna be flying with fully automated Rios, without having to touch the Jester menu, as if you were flying with a real person in the back seat. Today, I want to show you how it's possible and how you can use these tricks in your own missions. The Tomcat is a two-seat jet with both crew equally important. Yet, there's usually just one person playing the game, you, especially in single player. Heatblur solved this challenge by giving us the Jester AI, who does a great job most of the time, and you can easily tell him what you want him to do using the Jester wheel menu. Or, like I prefer, keyboard shortcuts. But what if that's not enough? What if it's not a dynamic situation, but a scripted campaign, like in Speed and Angels, where you're flying with experienced instructor Rios, who are there to help you? Why would you need to tell them what to do? Well, Heatblur just gave us mission makers an amazing set of tools to make it happen, and it's really incredible what you can achieve with a little creativity. Let me walk you through them one by one. Okay, here we are in the mission editor, and first of all, please excuse me for sounding like Bob Dylan. I have a terrible hat cold. So, let's place a Tomcat here somewhere. Wait a minute, let's set flag on at mission start so we can base all our further events on this flag. But it doesn't have to be at mission start, it can happen at any event depending on your mission. So the way you can set these up, let's say time since flag, like 10 seconds after mission start. Set command with value. This is what you want, right? So the command is going to be a number. It's about what you want to control, and you set it to a given value to control it. Let me give you an example. The first and most important one is 10010. This command sets the default Jester AI silent if you set the value to 1. This means he'll still work as intended, but you won't hear him over the ICS. Now this can be very important if you have your own Rio set up in your mission, so the player is not flying with Jester but someone else with custom voiceovers, like this is the case in Speed and Angels. Then you don't want to hear Jester's voice interfere with the custom voiceovers. Or, for example, in Zone 5, while Bio is doing the briefing, I just silenced Jester because he would call out random airliners 40 miles ahead of you, and that would just interfere with Bio's voice. It breaks the immersion. So you can silence Jester like this. And later, if you want to, like further 10 seconds later, you set the value to 0, and then Jester can speak again. This can be useful even if your mission is scripted. In some situations, you really want to hear the Jester AI. Let me give an example. During dogfights, Jester AI calls out the airspeed, the relative position of the bandit, like 8 o'clock low, so on and so forth. These calls are next to impossible to set up in a scripted way in the mission editor with custom voiceovers. So in those situations, it may be worth it to unsilence Jester. Or for example, when you're doing area refueling, like a little bit to the left, a bit to the right, so on and so forth. Those calls, again, impossible to set up with custom voiceovers. So you may want to use the Jester AI for it, but then you can silence them again. Another situation where you want to hear the Jester AI is lantern runs. So Jester directs you on target, like come 20 degrees right, 5 degrees right, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, pickle now. Those calls are very, very dynamic, cannot be set up with custom voiceover, so you may want to unsilence Jester if you silence him beforehand. But then as soon as you drop the bomb, you can silence him again. If you want, you can not only silence, but completely disable Jester, so remove him from the back seat. That's command 111. Value of 1, nobody in the back seat. Value of 0, Jester is there and doing his thing. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a situation, but I'm sure it can be useful sometime. The next command line is 109. It decides whether Jester should auto-designate a lantern target. So if it finds a target, the default behavior is that he designates it with the laser. But if you turn this on with the value of 1, then he'll not do that. He'll just look at the target. And as soon as you set it to 0, he'll automatically designate it with the laser. Sometimes it can be useful. I haven't used this one just yet. And now let's get into lantern targets. So instead of telling the Jester AI where to look for targets, like if you're flying online, you should do that. But in a scripted scenario, it's nice to have the illusion that somebody's in the backseat and operating that lantern like a real person. The first way to tell him where to look is using units. For example, I'm going to put a target here, Russia, and the unit's name has to be lantern target 01. This is super important. 01, 02 until 99. You can make him track 99 different targets. So we have lantern target 01. And then let's have another target called, let me copy paste the name, lantern target 02. So we're going to use command 112, so 10012, and the value should be 0.01 for lantern target 01, 0.02 for lantern target 02. So after 10 seconds, he should lock lantern target 01, and then 5 seconds later, lantern target 02. Let's see how it looks in game. Okay, here we are at ground mode.
The laser's armed.
And
okay, area track selected. Valid laser range.
First target locked. And now you got the second target. Of course, it's not visible because it's too far. But this way we can make him move between targets. And as you heard in this mission, if you're giving him commands like this, it's as if you were using the Jester wheel, so he's gonna respond like, okay, doing this, doing that, Wilco, Roger. And since you're not actually issuing commands, but the mission is, it's a bit weird to hear the reply. So anyway, when you use these commands, you're going to be using these with probably custom voiceovers. So it's really smart to silence Jester. So again, 10010, value 1. So let's silence Jester and then issue commands. Now let's have a look at the next kind of command, which is 10013, and this directs the lantern based on trigger zones. So let's say lantern target 1 is to be found, but first you want Jester to look here, the center of this trigger zone, and then look here, and then find the target. So how do you do that? First, you have to name the trigger zones in a specific way. It has to be lantern zone 01. And this has to be lantern zone 02. The size doesn't matter, the center of the zone matters. So After 10 seconds, we want Jester to look at trigger zone 1. Doesn't find anything. 5 seconds later, look at trigger zone 2. And then even 5 seconds later, use the previous command and find lantern target 01. So look here, and then look here and find the target. Okay. Let's check here first. There's nothing. Maybe let's check somewhere else. And nope, I don't see anything. And finally, there it is. And now, as you saw or heard or you didn't hear, Jester didn't say anything over the ICS. And it's great because you can combine these with voiceovers. So first you play a voiceover. Where can he be hiding? Let's check that farm first. And then you put lantern zone 1 over a farm. You tell him to look at the farm. A few seconds later you play a voiceovers. There's nothing here. Let's check somewhere else. And then you move the lantern, or you make him move the lantern somewhere else. A few seconds later you can play a voiceover. Nothing here either. Then you make him move the lantern here. And when he finds the target, a few seconds later, you play a voiceover. Oh, there it is, I got him. You can get creative with this. And as soon as the target is locked or designated by the lantern, you want to unsilence Jester. So add another line and set this to 0 so that he can direct you a couple of like 20 degrees right, 5 seconds to pickle now. And then when you drop the bomb, maybe with a bomb in zone trigger, you can silence him again. And there's another line. So if you want, first you make him look at lantern zone 01 over here. And then 5 seconds later, with the help of 10014 set to 1, Jester will designate manually whatever is under the lantern cross. So basically, with the help of these commands, in a scripted scenario, scripted mission, you can set up an AI Rio that behaves fully like a human being, combined with voiceovers and different lantern zones and targets. This can be super fun. But okay, now let's move on from the lantern and air to ground. One of the most basic tasks of a Rio is to talk over the radio. Talk to ATC and operate the back radio. So let's remove these lines. Command line 10015 will make him switch the back radio to a given preset channel. So by default he's on channel 1, but let's say he has to contact range control on channel 6, so that's value 0.06. Channel 14 would be 0.14 and so on, but now we want channel 6. So first you do this trigger, you make him switch, and then it takes a while. It's not instantaneous, but a couple of seconds later you can play a voiceover as he contacts that given agency. Back radio is on channel 1, and 10 seconds from mission start. There we go. We switch to channel 6. Now we can contact the agency. Command line 10016 will make Jester set the TACAN to a given channel. You need 4 digits after the decimal. So the first 3 digits is the TACAN channel. And the last digit is whether it's X or Y. So if we want 77 X-ray, which is, where are you? Tonopah, 77 X-ray. Then it should be 077. And we want X-ray, so that's a 0. If you want Yankee, then that's a 1. But we want X-ray, so that's a 0. Don't worry, the 0 will disappear, but it will act like a 0. So after 10 seconds, you should switch the TACAN to 77 X-ray. Okay, let's switch the HSD to TACAN. Now it's set to 018 or something. And see, it switched to Tonopah. Dead ahead, 54 miles. This can be useful when, let's say, you take off from the boat and then you want to find the tanker. It switches to the tanker's TACAN, then, I don't know, back to the boat. The next one is the destination knob. Let's say we have waypoint 1 here, waypoint 2 over here. So we want him to switch to waypoint 2 after a while. Now it's going to happen 10 seconds after mission start, but you can also do this. You place a trigger zone here, call it waypoint 1 or whatever you want. And as soon as you're inside that zone, then you trigger that command. So after reaching waypoint 1, Jester should automatically switch to waypoint 2. But now I don't want to fly all the way here, so I'm going to make him do this 10 seconds after mission start. So let's use 10017, value 0.1, that's waypoint 1. We want 0.2, that's waypoint 2. Let's go. Okay, we've got dest selected, steer command. So it's pointed at waypoint 1, range is 26 nautical miles. Up, he just switched to waypoint 2, range 21 miles. Now I need to turn left. Now you can make Jester enter a new waypoint based on coordinates. Let's say in case you talk to a ground controller and he tells you about their location or where the target is. So first you need a zone. Let's see, right here. The zone should be called waypoint zone 01, 02, 03 up to 99. And then first you use 10018 to select which waypoint should the new waypoint be entered under. So 0.1 is waypoint 1, 0.3 waypoint 3, and so on and so forth. And you can select fixed point, IP, surface target, HB, or MAN for defended point. Let's say we want surface target, that 0.6. So this line selects the surface target to be used for entering the new waypoint, but the new waypoint has not been entered yet. We need a new line. Let's say 2 seconds later, or just 1 second later, we use 10019. So this takes whichever waypoint you selected with 10018 and then select a trigger zone, a waypoint zone. We have waypoint zone 01, so that should be 0.01, and enters the coordinates of the center of that waypoint zone as this waypoint. And after that, we want him to switch to that waypoint. So let's say 4 seconds later or 3 seconds later. He's not going to do that because it takes him longer to set up that waypoint. Once that's set up, we use 10017 to switch to a surface target, which is also 0.6. Let's see what it looks like in game. Okay, we're headed to waypoint 1. Let's switch the HSD so we can see what he's doing. After 10 seconds, he should be typing in. Oh yeah, can you hear him? Yeah, you can see that he's typing in new coordinates for the new waypoint. And you can also hear him do that. Once he's done, there's the new waypoint, 7 miles range. And there's another command, 10020, which controls the WCS switch, so basically the radar. 0.1 sets it to off, 0.2 standby, 0.3 on, and 0 back to automatic mode. So Jester will handle that automatically. When would this be useful? Well, the WCS switch has to be in standby before you refuel, so when you approach the tanker, or when you land on the carrier, or within 50 miles of the carrier when it's AMCON, so emission control, in order not to give away the carrier's position. So let's say you make a trigger zone around the tanker, and when you are inside that moving trigger zone around the tanker, then you give Jester this command to switch it to standby. And then once you leave that trigger zone, switch it back to on or to 0 to let him handle it automatically. This is a nice detail. It's not a game changer, but it makes things more realistic. And then there's 10021, which runs the RWR, or raw bit, the built-in test, if you set it to 1. Again, I don't know when you want to use that, but it's possible. Let's move on to air targets. 10022 handles the TID range knob. So default is 0, it's automatic. But with 0.1, he sets it to 25 miles, 0.2, 50 miles, 0.3, 100 miles, 0.4, 200 miles, 0.5, 400 miles. So here's the bear, it's at 25 miles. So at first, I want him to set it to 100 miles, and then a little later to 50 miles, and then 20 miles. Okay, here we are. There's the target. Now I set to 100 miles. And then 50 miles. And then 20 miles. So if you don't trust Jester AI to handle this automatically, which sometimes you shouldn't, you can make him switch between the ranges when you know exactly which target the player should be attacking or looking at based on the distance from the target. So you want to make sure the target is in the upper half of the TID. With command 10023 set to 1, you can make Jester eject. Again, not sure which situations you want to use that in, but it could be part of the story. I'm not touching anything. Bye-bye. And then you can make him lock a specific target. Let's say there are 2 bandits. One is air target 01. And the second one is air target 02, and you want him to lock this guy. So you use command 10024, set to value of 0.02 because it's air target 02. And the good thing is he's going to actually move the radar all the way to the gimbal's limits and actually make an effort to lock the target. And then later, if he loses lock, he's going to try to reacquire lock if possible. So it's not like you give him the command, sorry, no can do, and then forgets about it. He will keep trying to lock this target right until you set this back to 0. It will stop forcing Jester to lock the target. But if the target is locked, it's not going to break lock. Okay? It's just going to stop forcing him to lock this specific target in case he loses the lock. But you can make him break lock as well with the help of 10025 set to 1. So first we want him to lock air target 02. 5 seconds later, we want to stop forcing him to lock that guy, and then even 5 seconds later we want him to break lock. If you don't add this after you break lock, he'll immediately try to reacquire the lock. Here we go, 2 targets. And the second one is locked. We have a diamond. And lock is broken. Now we're going to jump ahead a little bit. And we can have him launch a missile. But that's 10032. So first he's going to lock target number 2 and then launch Fox 3 because Rios can launch Fox 3s as well. Let's make sure we're fenced in. Phoenix is selected. So target number 2 locked, and 3 seconds later, 5 seconds later, Fox 3. Now one more thing about the radar. You can make him change the azimuth and elevation of the radar. Let's say the bandit is right here. So by default, he wouldn't be on the scope. With 10033, we can make him look left and right. -1 is radar gimbal fully to the left, +1 is fully to the right. So minus, let's say 0.8 off the top of my head. And if you want, you can also change the elevation with the help of 10034. -1 is all the way down, 0 is level, and +1 is all the way up. But we don't want that just now. So here we are looking straight ahead, nothing on the scope. Where can he be? Up. Turning the radar to the left, we now have the target. There you go. But again, he'll keep the radar pointed to the left until you set that value back to 0. So don't forget that. And last but not least, we can ask Jester to set up for air to ground completely without having to use the Jester wheel. And I find that pretty annoying. Before air to ground attacks, I have to use so many menu options, but not anymore. So let's go one by one. 10026 selects station and switches it on and off. So that's 0.2 digits. First digit is the station number. It says station 4 on, or station 4 off. On is 1, off is 0. Say we want to turn on station 4 and 5. 5 on. And what else do you need? You need the weapon wheel option. Select the weapon type, that's 10027. And you have a whole list of weapon types in the description of this video. But if you want, let's say Mark 82s, low drag, that's 0.13. So you have the Mark 82 selected. What else do you need? 1 second later, you can set the attack mode. 10028. 0 is computer target, 0.1 is computer IP, 0.2 is computer pilot, and 0.3 is manual. Let's say we want computer pilot. 1 second later, we select the delivery mode with 10029er. It's again 2 digits. First digit 0 is step, 1 is ripple. Second digit 0 is single, 1 is pairs. So we want step and let's say pairs. And then there's one last thing you can set up. 10030, the delivery interval. Again, it's 2 digits after the decimal. The first digit is the first roller, the second digit is the second roller. So you want to deliver, I don't know, 0.2 or just 1. And there's one more, 31 is the delivery quantity. Again, first digit, first roller, second roller, 0, whatever, 4. It doesn't make sense right now, but it doesn't matter. So let's give him enough time to flip the switches. And then we're going to jump back to the back seat and check what he did. Okay, here we are. Mark 82 low drag selected, computer pilot, step, pairs, interval, quantities 4, stations 4 and 5 selected. See? And now in the front seat, all we have to do is to mash that pickup button. So in your mission, when you know what the target is, and when you know when the player approaches the target, you can make Jester set up for the delivery. You know the loadout exactly, what bombs, what station, what delivery mode. Of course, if you want to leave it up to the player, then don't do this. But if it's all kind of heavily scripted, and you know what should be happening, then it's a great help. And again, you can find a complete list of all these commands and values in the description of this video.
Okay, I hope you found this interesting and useful. This may not work for every scenario though. In my Zone 5 and Fear the Bones campaign, you are meant to fly with the Jester AI and use the F-14 module as Heatblur intended. But in Speed and Angels, it wouldn't feel right having to instruct your instructor Rios on what to do. And also the campaign is heavily scripted, less dynamic than the former two, so an automated Rio is an awesome addition. You'll see for yourself soon. Alright, if you'd like to see more tutorials and campaign updates, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. See ya!